when we do the gossip test, you'll see a few different variations from different people. And again, we've had these sort of open discussions about why we do different things and what we think makes sense to us. I like to get my patients to put their feet together. And the reason for that is that when I retest, we have that consistent, it's always, we're testing from the same place. It can't go any closer together than it did when we tried. Some people combat that by putting their feet in between the patient's feet and saying, right, if you could just put your feet against mine. And so that, again, that's not going to vary so much, but that's just not something I do. And some people like to keep it relatively neutral because, as we've spoken about, that is the way the patient stands. And so that is a little bit up to you, the way you do things. I like the feet together because it's consistent, but also it exaggerates the movement a little bit more. We allow that hip seems to drop more, and we get a more obvious curve coming through the spine. So if you could just put your feet together for me. Yeah. And yeah, let me know if you start to sort of lose your balance or whatever, but I think you'll be fine. And normally I'd stand behind my patient. I'm not going to do that because you're all looking. And I would typically stabilize just the pelvis, or not stabilize, I just hold the pelvis to see, do we get any anterior or sort of posterior movements or any accessory movements occurring from the pelvis there. So that would look like something like this, and then I get my patient to do the movement. And so all I get my patient to do is drop their right knee. So what I mean by drop the right knee is do that. Yeah, and we spoke about this yesterday, gossip test, because it's that position when you're waiting at the bus station, what happens. Okay, and so we see and actually we don't see so much of a movement through his lumbar spine. I think we spoke about this yesterday, this sort of restriction. And okay, so just stand back up and then drop on the other side. Okay, so that's how we see a little bit better. Yeah, so when he drops the left knee, the pelvis is going to drop and the side bend occurs through the lumbar spine. What we mean by testing the L3 is the apex of that curve we're seeing in the lumbar spine should be at that L3 level. Okay, if we go back to the other side, do we see how that's completely different to the other side?
Can we see it again? Like
yeah, just okay. Yeah, just drop the left. Okay, so just do the left for me and just hold that. It's not perfectly at L3 in his case, but what I'm looking at is we see a nice sort of relatively smooth curve. It's not perfectly sort of balanced at L3 area, but actually that curve is occurring when he drops on the right. So if you do the other side, do you see how there's not as much shift? That side bend doesn't occur, and actually we see a focus. Well, I see a focus. I don't know about you, but I see a focus sort of much higher up than we'd normally expect that change to occur. Yeah, we were happy with that as a sort of process, and I think when you have someone that's a little bit more mobile, the back's a little bit freer, this becomes a little bit more obvious, and the shift occurs a lot more freely. So maybe working in the sort of groups of 2s and 3s, when you finish with one group, maybe go and have a look at someone with a sort of a slightly different body to the person that you've been working with, just to see how that does vary.